A lot of strange things happened when I lived in New York, in part because I was poor most of the time, and it seems that a lot of strange things happen to you when you're poor. I was a foster care caseworker for 2 years, so that brought a lot of challenges. I had to take the kids to jail. I had to go to see their parents. I had to go look for their parents in some very dicey areas. I was in court all the time. So there was a lot of strange stuff that happened there, but I think the strangest thing that happened to me was when I was working at a friend's graphic design firm when I first got to New York, and we all worked late that night, and then I was taking home the foam core that had the layout for this brochure or newsletter that we were going to have printed the next day. And it wasn't heavy at all, but it was bulky, I kind of carry it under my left arm a little bit uncomfortably. And then I had a small backpack over my right shoulder. So I was working on 43rd Street. I lived on 53rd. It was no big deal. I walked home all the time. I walked all over New York all the time with no problem. But this night I left and I stopped at an ATM because I wanted to get cash so that I could take a cab down to the printer the next morning. And then I proceed, and I get to 52nd Street, so I'm almost home, and I'm right across the street from one of the major theaters. I forget the name of it right now, but I think there's also another big theater on that street. And it wasn't deserted or anything, but I see this shadow coming up behind me, and next thing I know, this guy has his left arm around my neck, and his right hand is reaching into my right front pocket, where he proceeds to take out the case that he had seen me put my card back into after I had been to the ATM. So he's looking at that, and there's no money in it, and he says, give me money, and I grab the thing back from him, and I say, I don't have any money. And he keeps saying, give me money, and I keep saying, I don't have any money, because the thing was, speaking of being poor, I had tried to take cash advance from my credit card, and I was over the limit, and I wasn't able to get a cash advance. So I really did have no money. I think if I had had some, I might have given it to him. But he was this little scrawny guy. Crack was all over the place at that time. He was obviously a crack addict, totally jazzed up. And I wasn't really afraid of him physically. I was able to kind of twirl away from him and keep him at a little bit of a distance from me. But he didn't go away. He kept walking down the street next to me, and nobody else was getting involved. And he was getting kind of heated, saying, give me money. And I'm saying, I don't have any money, and this keeps going on. And then finally, one more time, he says, give me money. And I say, I don't have any money. And he said, well, that's what you said the last time, as though he had mugged me before or something. And I just thought, wow, is that what happens to people in New York? They get mugged all the time, the same people. So I just thought that was very strange. And about that time, some tourists came along, very nice people. They did intervene, and he ran away. So that was the end of that. And then a couple of years later, I was in what I called my Henry Miller phase. I was reading all of his books, and I kind of had this all experience is good experience attitude. And one night when I am sure I had more than a couple of drinks, I was explaining this to my cab driver as he's driving me downtown. So next thing I know, he pulls over and jumps in the back seat with me. And the main thing that sticks out about that experience is he was very upset when I didn't give him a tip. So those are just two of the strange experiences I had when I was living in New York.